This year, because of the pandemic and because of all the restrictions, we opted just a little over 10 days ago to do this electronically so that the kids could have closure, so that they could get their money and get on with their next year and the challenges that are going to be coming. So that's why we're doing this tonight. I really appreciate each of you and your time. And welcome, Robin. I'm not seeing Robin. I haven't met you. Robin, if you want to unmute your,
Yep, can you hear me?
I can hear you there. Yeah, okay, but I can't see your picture. Have you got your, that's Peggy. There's Robin, RPB. Okay, so in this little briefing before we start, and in my introductions, what I was just saying is we all know how important it is, that final oral presentation or the question and answers. Now, you've all been able to see their taped videos, which would be similar to what they would do on stage at the little theater, followed by your 5 minutes of question and answers, Socratic questions to find out more about the individual, the work they've done. Um, and one of the things I learned when we were competing for the All America City in Kansas City, and we were being judged on our presentation, was I thought we were just really doing great because the judges panel started out by saying, I really like what you're doing in Kenai with your senior citizens. I really like that Caring for the Kenai program. They would always lead their question with a very positive statement. And I have found in the last 5 years since we've been doing this, and those of you who are repeat judges have heard this little spiel before, but the idea is you're going to calm the participant down. They're going to think they're really doing good, and that's going to give them a lot of energy to think better and to answer the questions better. So I would ask that as you lead into your question, to lead it into really like what you're doing about the recycled clothing, or really like the idea of taking the beetle kill out. But have you considered that it may be illegal, or whatever your question is? And I went through the presentations today, and actually, these kids did such a great job. And now that you've seen them, I actually, it brought tears to my eyes, because we all need now hope in the future, and hope in a normalcy. And these kids just brought me such hope that it cracked me up. And I'm so proud of each of you in these times of crisis to come here tonight, to have, and I've never been a judge, never will be, because each one of these kids are a winner. I could take any of the 12 and go get their idea implemented and put on. So you've got a real tough job. And how you're going to prioritize them is going to be based on who you are. Okay, we don't have any professional Caring for the Kenai judges. It's your experience and your life experiences that you will then prioritize what you think are the top six, by the way you score. And this is Brandon's first time, and Brandon, you probably didn't get a chance to see the essays, but you've worked with a lot of these kids and you're familiar with the program. So that's what you're looking for. As I said in my email to you, rather than thinking of a judge who finds somebody right or wrong, guilty or not guilty, I think of you now more as a prospector. We have so many stories of kids that have gone on with this life-changing experience because they implemented it. They went ahead and did it, and it brought those results. And what you're looking for tonight is that nugget of gold, the kid who stands out, who's going to become a community member and benefit society based on the experience that they've had through this program. And I do want to emphasize that we have 3 repeats this year. Now, those were 3 who were in the finals last year. And this is really speaks highly of the program, because after all, what we want to do is not just have these kids do their homework and have a good idea, but we want to see it change the quality of our community life. And these kids that are repeats have all been judged not on their original idea, but on what they have accomplished in the last 12 months, or maybe even longer, because this should have been done in April. But what they have done since that entry to take it to another level, and what that has mean, and what their experience has brought to them at the table. So you'll want to remember that, with those who are repeats. You're not judging the first idea, and where the other kids, it may be just their idea and they haven't implemented it yet. You're going to want to evaluate that. The other thing that I want to ask you to do as you keep your scores is if you'll keep some kind of a record of them and send them to Colette here at the Challenger Center so that we can keep them on file. So we can either do a scan or whatever, but we do want to keep those scores. Okay, with that, we only have a few minutes for questions, but does any of the judges have a question?
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I read in the directions that we can chat our scores, and the chats in this particular app are only going to be read by Colette. Is that correct? The students can't see our scores?
Correct.
Okay. So we're gonna, at the end, we're gonna send our chat scores at that point, all of the top six rated.
No, at the end of each Q&A session, each student will have 5 minutes to answer their question and answers. At the end of the time, I'll interrupt them and we'll give you some time to tabulate your scores. Once you've tabulated your total for that student, you will then send them to George, who will start running the final tabulation.
Thank you.
Okay, I had one other thought and I forgot it. Anybody else have a question? Okay. Do we have all the finalists in the room, Colette?
There was 13 left class and 13 over. We have 12. A couple of them do need to quickly change their number once they sign in, or I can do it manually as well. But if you give us like a
Okay.
couple seconds,
Okay.
once I get them in, a couple of them have their name showing, but no one's gonna notice,
Okay.
and then I'll change them real fast. So,
Shout out to Robin and NSTAR because NSTAR helped us start a grant program where these kids can apply for monies to actually implement their ideas. And that's one of the reasons you see some of these kids back is because they are taking it to the other level because of that. So send our kudos along to NSTAR and hope to see you keep adding to that grant chest in the future.
Will do. Thanks. Happy to be involved.
Good deal.
all right, I'm gonna admit them all. Ready? Here they come. They might also do it themselves. Yep, they're already doing it themselves. Sweet. They're just setting up their settings. All right. I don't see any names. I think they're good to go. If you want to confirm with them.
Okay, guys, welcome aboard. We were just speaking with the judges. They have all seen your presentations. Let me personally compliment you on the job you did with such short notice. I think you had, less than a week to record your presentations. And while you've had 3 extra months to be thinking about your oral presentation, up until just 10 days ago, we thought that you would be on stage as you have been in the past. So each one of you, I am extremely proud of and can tell you that any of you, wherever you place tonight, you have assistance from this community. If you want to go do what you're talking about it, we'll get it done. And that's what this program is all about. And you guys are one of the best groups that we've seen. So welcome aboard. Let me introduce you to the judges panel. And this is your Q&A, and it's a little different from in the past where the Q&A followed your oral presentation because they've had time to think. And hopefully their questions will be not as spontaneous, but well thought through in the past. And again, speaking back to the judges, if we will be rotating. I'll be introducing in their order of appearance. And then if you asked a question this time and didn't get to one next time, just kind of be quick to respond, or maybe give me a hand signal or something, so that each judge does get a turn. With only 5 minutes being allowed to answer the question, each of the 8 judges may not get a question for each of the participants. So we'll just kind of, if you have one that you really want to ask that you really missed, then, let me know, and we'll get you in on it. So with that, let's introduce our judges panel. First of all, I'd like to introduce the students who haven't met him before to Cameron Hunt. He is the marathon plant manager of our signature sponsor, who has made this program possible. And since the beginning, which Unical started, they stepped up to keep this program going. And as it has gotten more and more expensive, they have been there to keep that budget happening so that we can have this opportunity for you kids. And we're very glad to welcome Cameron Hunt. They've got a busy time out there, and COVID has really made his job pretty difficult, with a turnaround happening probably as we speak. Our next judge is very well known to all of you. He was a former city councilman in the city of Soldotna. He then went on to be mayor and shepherded through the Soldotna Creek Park, which we all appreciate. He is now your state senator for our district. That's Peter Machicki. Joining us tonight from the school district, because you can imagine the problems that they have with trying to get school started and all of that. Sitting in for John O'Brien, our superintendent of schools, is Peggy Erkeneff, who is the director of communications, community, and government relations. Welcome, Peggy. You guys are doing a great job over there, and we look forward to getting back into the classrooms. Marnie Olcott, right here in the Challenger Learning Center, is the Challenger Learning Center of Alaska CEO, and has done an outstanding job in helping us take this program forward to other places so that other kids can have the opportunities that you have here in Kenai. Dick Erkeneff is a past CEO of Fortune 500 companies. He moved to retire to Alaska, and rather than retire, he has been running a B&B. He is providing hospitality in the spirit of Alaska to people from around the world, which has been a little different this year. But Dick, when he got involved with this program, has been there with us ever since as a community partner and one of our best cheerleaders. Robin Berry joins us for the first time. He is the Southern Division Manager at NSTAR Natural Gas Company. They are making the grant program possible so that you can apply to help implement your ideas and get funds to do that. We appreciate NSTAR for doing that. Brandon Borneman is the director of the Kenai Watershed Forum. He took over from Robert Ruffner back in the day, and we've been looking forward to an opportunity to have him come in as a judge. He came in at the last minute with just 2 days notice, or maybe 1 day notice. And Brandon, I know you put a lot of things on the side to be able to be with us tonight and to hear all the presentations, and we really appreciate you and the past involvement of the Kenai Watershed Forum. And now, because our last year winner has re-entered and been selected to be a finalist again this year, we went back to our winner from 2018, and that is Carly Rizzo. She graduated from Nikiski High School and is now a college student, but she will be representing your peer group tonight. So now, having seen the presentations, we're going to go into the Q&A. And this is where you will be giving the judges the information and the answer to their questions from having seen your presentations. Our first contestant, and we'll ask the judges to be sure that their rubric, their score sheet, is entered entry number 101, so that when you send it electronically over here. Oh, let's thank George Stein from Wagatour, because he in the past has been our scorekeeper. He will be tabulating those things, and we will know our results tonight. So thank you very much, George, for all your support in the past. So I will introduce number 101, and who would like to start out the questioning? Not seeing that hand, how about if we call on Cameron to ask the first question?
I'm sorry.
Cam, are you
I
in?
can't hear.
There you are. Are you unmuted, Cam?
Hey, Merrill, this is Dick. Merrill?
Dick, yes. Where are you?
Yeah,
Okay,
I
yeah.
got a question. I have a question for 101 if you want me to start.
Okay, why don't you start us out, Dick? I can hear you.
Okay. For number 101, when you were doing your research, did you go to places that use things like in Soldotna, the bishop's attic. And to see how extensive that the clothes, older clothes, how they turned over in that store. Did you see, is there a market out there for that kind of thing?
I've been to the Bishop's Attic a good amount of times. I didn't pay much attention to the clothes, like the condition of the clothes, but I'm sure that the store owners try their best to keep them in good condition. But if the clothes have been there for a while, then they probably don't want you. They probably don't want be. They probably aren't wanted. Sorry.
Mhm. Thank you.
Okay, question from another judge. We're rolling for 5 minutes.
Meryl, I have one. Meryl?
Yeah, go ahead, Marty.
Okay, so I just have a comment too. I want to mention that I thought it was pretty great that you kind of switched gears a little bit and recognized, given the current situation, and that you were able to come up with an upcycled idea or product that you could actually make out of the used clothing, that maybe there's some of the items that weren't wanted and things like that. So I thought that was great that you were able to kind of midstream go, oh, okay, situation's a little bit different. What are some of the things that I can do? Were you able to find other families and other community members? I know you incorporated your own family, which is great, and some of your research, but were you able to find other community members and possibly an area that you could do an outdoor venue?
Well, I could do it in like the public park, or I could do it in the like so high fields. I'm sure that they would probably be willing to do that. And if in the worst case scenario, if no one would let me go anywhere, I could just do it in my own yard.
Thank
Okay,
you.
we may have time for another question. Any of the other judges have a question for number 101?
Yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Sometimes you'll get donations of clothing for this type of activity, and sometimes there'll be some items left over. What's your plan for dealing with leftovers or storage of those types of articles of clothing?
Well, I could always donate the extra to a thrift store, and if they won't accept the clothing, then I can always use the extra clothing and make it into something that would help the community. I could. My mom's been making a lot of masks recently. The string is made out of t-shirts, and the fabric is made out of just regular old fabric. So I could use the extra clothes and turn it into masks. I think my mom could really help me with that. Or I could make it into something else useful.
Okay, thank you.
Meryl, you're muted.
Okay, we've got about 60 seconds left. Another question? Or the judge is satisfied to mark your score? Oh, Peggy, go.
I liked how you really iterated your project based on the global pandemic that arrived. I'm curious, can you share what surprised you? You went into this with one concept, and what I saw in the video, it came out something different. How were you surprised by what happened, and what did you learn by the shift that you made?
Well, I think lots of things have been very surprising lately. What really surprised me is that maybe that I could still find a use or find a project to keep going with. Like, I don't know. I don't really know what else. It wasn't that surprising.
Thank you. I do really like how you saw a new solution that you could do and it shifted to that. And a need, especially around creating the masks and the bags. So I applaud you for your thinking of solutions.
Thank you.
Good thinking, good questions. Thank you, judges. Now please mark your final scores for number 101. And while we're just getting used to this for the very first time, and as an MC, it's all kind of new to me, I first of all have to thank the person who's put it together and making it possible, and that's Colette Gilmore, who works here at the Challenger Learning Center. She's doing all of the managing and the hosting, and I'm just standing here pretending that I'm live. So I am going to introduce the idea as well, so that the people who are listening other places, we do have people joining us through the Challenger YouTube channel that is available on our Facebook site and our webpage. So welcome to all of you, and I hope you will be just as entertained from these question and answers as you were watching the Elton John Global Musical thing, which put me to sleep, because these are our kids. This is the future, and when you see the investment that is being made by this community into these kids, I think you'll have a lot of hope for the future, as I certainly have. So if the judges are all in and done, and let's see, maybe I could get the judges to raise your right hand when you have your score submitted. I don't want to get ahead of you. It looks like everybody's ready to go. So with that, let's introduce number 102. That'll be your next score sheet entry number, 102. It's the idea from a community. Oh, these are the drones, the Community Prep Drone Project, to freshen all the judges' memories. What a fantastic idea this is. So who would like to be the first judge to send number 102 a question?
Can you hear me now?
I can. Is that you, Cam?
All right, got the mic fixed.
Okay.
Hey, great progress on this, on your project. It looks like you've looked at floodplains, you've looked at the bluff. Are there any other applications that you've been considering for the application of drones and with regard to emergency preparedness?
Another application, as we saw last summer when we had crazy fires everywhere, is using drones to monitor fire areas, which can reduce the danger to our human firefighters who have to go out and see the lines sometimes themselves. So sending up an aerial view can reduce the need for that. However, we weren't able to help in that particular scenario, but that's another thing they can easily be transferred to.
That's great. And just a question, if you're continuing to follow this in your college studies, both of you.
I think I'll try to figure out a program in Montana that will help me stay connected with the drones when I get down there.
My kind of plan has morphed, so I'm not working on the same exact drone projects as before, but I'm supporting communities around Alaska, learning how to use some smaller drones and then kind of like progressive curriculum up to larger drones that would be capable of this type of thing.
Very cool. Thank you.
And that looks like Brandon. Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Gotcha.
Okay, so yeah, I think this is this great use of technology. Wonderful, rapidly changing, rapid use of technology. It'll serve you well in the future if you stick with it. What did you learn through your project about the laws and permitting surrounding the use of drones? I know it's very complex, and I'm sure you ran into some of that. So yeah, what did you learn?
It depends on how you use drones. We use them mainly recreationally. So we didn't need to get Part 107 licensed, where you go to an FAA center and take a written test. And that allows you to use them for commercial use where you're personally paid for your service. But the recreational exception can be used by students and people who aren't directly making money.
Okay, we still have some time for one more question. Show me a hand. Marnie, go for it.
Have you guys, I know you guys have been using some of the software to be able to program your drones. Have you thought about expanding a little bit more into what you do with the data after the use of the actual drone to get your imagery? As far as the data collection, the interpretation of the data, and getting it out for other purposes?
So about 2 years ago, we asked our flood board for a grant, and we worked with AggieSoft, and we were able to get the teacher programming. So we were able to actually, and then we got a server from our school district. So we were actually able to set up a processing center in the school so that those maps that you guys saw in our presentations were actually ones that we had done in school. So once we were done collecting all the data, we actually did go back and process them. And before we left school, we were trying to figure out how to do ground control points so that you could get more accurate data from them. But it was very complicated, so we were only able to do it on our high school field, and then we were going to move towards Japanese Creek to figure out the sedimentation differences on those.
Thank you. I would
Okay.
imagine the current situation put a little bit of a halt to that project, but it would have been a great project to follow through with. Thank you.
Peter, I see that hand. Go for it. We got 1 minute.
Can you hear me?
Now we're hearing you.
Okay, yeah, my question was on your discussions with the agencies. I know during the Swan Lake fire, they used drones extensively, but have they been receptive on additional applications with the flood board and Office of Emergency Management and Forestry with your discussions with them? Did they seem interested, and what additional applications did they seem sort of directed toward?
We haven't spoke directly with fire agencies. That was just the first other disaster that came to mind. But working with the flood board and looking at erosion was actually quite the learning experience. So we ended up focusing all our time on that. But
And
other
we are out of
applications
time.
definitely.
So thank you very much, judges. And please mark your score sheets now for entry number 102. While you're doing that, I'd like to let Robin know we're not able to see his photo on my screen. And also, I think we have one other judge that I'm not seeing. And that's okay. But if you have a question, just unmute and speak into your microphone if your camera's not connected or whatever, and jump right in. You know, don't feel that you have to wait to be acknowledged by the teacher or something like that. Get these kids as many questions as we can. There we go, Robin. I can see you now. Okay, so give you just a little time to add all of your scores up. And then when the judges have completed your scoring, if you'll just lift a hand so that I can see that you're done. And it looks like we're all in and done. Okay, so with that, entry number 103 is up next. And this is an idea about marketing imperfect produce. And who would like to start out the questioning this time?
I have a question.
Okay, Peter. Speaking of imperfect things.
Thanks, Merrill. This is a fascinating one for me, and it went a little bit with the recycling of garments. We live in a society that wants perfection. And I've got to tell you, even our own household, my wife has a great greenhouse. They always have a bowl of the imperfect stuff that I eat because they want the really pretty stuff, right? How do we reprogram Americans to recognize that tomato with a little bump on it or a little brown spot is equally perfect, like you talked about in the video? How do we reprogram Americans to recognize that what may not be visually perfect is equally useful?
I think that in order to allow Americans to recognize the true perfection of imperfect produce, you have to explain, you know, how many benefits there are. You know, we're supporting families in need. We're supporting farmers. We are supporting, you know, locally grown agriculture. So I think that before we, you know, like help them to, before we like train their eyes to not really judge a book by its cover, I think that just showing the benefits and showing how many people it's helping will really, really help to change people's perspectives.
Thank you.
Okay, another question for entry number 104. 103, sorry. Just speak up if I don't see your hand. Go, Marnie.
I just think it's great how not only are you trying to change people's minds on the imperfect fruit, and like Peter said, it's you know, definitely something that's needed to be done. Is just because that's that perfect round tomato doesn't mean that one with the split on the bottom actually means it's sweeter. You know, so pointing out those things, but not only selling the whole produce as it comes off the vine, but also that didn't sell, you taking it back and throwing another layer on it and then making an in-made product out of it, I think is brilliant. I think that was an excellent idea. And I just would like to know how your sales at the markets are going, and are you having people buying into this idea of, hey, this come from an imperfect fruit and this was the result of it, which is a pretty perfect jam or a pretty perfect piece of bread.
Yeah, I am having like a lot of people come up to me very interested in my project. I'm really, really excited to get to share it with people because I've been working so hard on it. I have been, as you guys know from my presentation, mainly buying from just my family's farm, but I was actually approached by another farm yesterday when I was at the market who is wanting to work on my project with me. So I now have 2 farms who are interested, and my sales go up every day, and I'm really excited to be helping people.
And do we have another question about the imperfect produce?
Yeah. I have a question. Can you hear me?
Go, Dick.
Okay. I think this is a fantastic idea in your project. And I think there is such huge waste for produce, whether it looks good or doesn't look good to you. So what I was, let me get my train of thought here. And the other thing I wanted to congratulate you is to take your idea to the marketplace and you created a business. I think that's a huge transition, and that really, you should be complimented for that also. And I was wondering if you could expand your sources. That's where my question is. You sounded like you got someone else that's a grower. How about restaurants or stores that maybe they don't look good enough to the customer, they still good, but you could use that as a food source? Have you looked at other places to get food to reduce the overall waste of produce?
I have been speaking with Willow Cleus from Mindful Foods, talking to her about, you know, where she has gotten her produce from and other things like that. I would like to get bigger stores involved, but I think a big part of my project is supporting local farmers because I know how difficult it can be to be a small town farmer. So I think as of right now, I'd really like to keep my project helping local farmers as much as I possibly can. But in the future, I would love to, you know, start working with bigger businesses and stores and seeing if I can.
Thank you very much. That's number 103. And we're trying to keep our time to 5 minutes, and I will interrupt you when that 5 minutes is up. And I'd just like to say, as the judges are marking their score sheets, that I'd like to see a blender with all the imperfect produce put in and a smoothie shake, so that when I'm at the Wednesday market, I can pay $5 or $10 for a smoothie, and I don't even know that it was looking ugly before it was in that smoothie. Okay, judges, As you complete your score sheets, please raise your hand and we'll get ready for our next contestant. You guys are good. You're moving fast. And there's Dick. Okay, so with that, those scores are going into George, who is tabulating them. Our next idea is about homelessness and how it's killing the Kenai and how that has an environmental twist. It was a great verbal presentation, and mark your score sheets number 104. And who would like to begin the questioning? Carly, we haven't heard from you yet.
Sure, I actually do have a question for this one. I was really fascinated with the idea of the homelessness on the Kenai because a lot of people don't know about it. Like when you ask people where's most of the homelessness in Alaska, they'll usually say around like Anchorage, places like that. So I really like the idea of filming the documentary to spread the word. And I was wondering, how are you advertising that? Like, are you doing radio ads or is it just social media?
As of right now, it's posted on YouTube. I have a Facebook page for it right now, and I'm gonna try and send that out to more people. I've also sent it out to a lot of big people in the community, the city council, the student council, to try and help me post it. But yeah, after this, I would love to be able to get a radio ad or get the newspaper to help me advertise it in some way.
I do have a follow-up question. What is your target audience, like age group or social class?
I wouldn't say I have a specific target. I want to reach everyone in the community because that's what it's going to take. It's going to take everyone.
Good answers. Do we have any other questions from our judges?
Sure, I'd like to ask one. Very touching video, very well done, and really appreciated the interview that you had on there too. Just wondering, what were your ideas for? Are you talking about having a separate homeless shelter using existing buildings in the community? What were your thoughts on that?
Well, I have used Love Inc. as my major source of information. And raising money for them and their cold weather shelter, especially for in the winter. Like in my documentary, I interviewed that one man, and I wish I could have captured his face when he talked about the cold weather. And so that's my goal, to be able to help get the shelter for especially when it's really cold.
Okay, Brandon, I see your hand on that. Do you have a question?
Yes, I do. So two real quick questions. I really do love this idea and feel like it's very much needed for our community. Number one is, do you know the estimated total cost of the facility? Obviously, that would depend on a number of factors. And can you talk about the impact COVID may be having on our homeless population?
Yeah, so those questions actually really coincide together, especially right now, because COVID has made a huge impact on the cost and how they're going to have to be able to do this shelter with the CDC guidelines and needing a lot bigger building and more staff to help spread people out. And so I last emailed and had a meeting with Love Inc. today and Monday, and they do not have a specific cost right now for me. I would love to give you an answer, but unfortunately I can't.
How's our time? Do we have time for one more question?
Yeah, question here. I liked your compassion when you on the video for this. This issue is pretty significant throughout our country. So the question I have, some of the stats that you said, 10 to 15% increase per year on the Kenai Peninsula. One of the things I was interested in, of that increase, if you look at that growth, is that coming from residents of the peninsula or outside the peninsula? Where is that increase coming from? Do you know that part of the statistic?
I believe it is actual residents, and I do know that I was emailing a woman, and I know that the number of students homeless is rising. That number is rising, and that's a big problem in the school district.
Thank you.
Okay, judges, make your final numbers on number 104, entry number 104. We've heard a lot about homelessness. This is the first time we have seen it approached from an environmental impact. So congratulations. And then judges, when you are finished, please raise a hand and we will move right into number 105. Marnie, are you good? Okay. Okay, then our next contestant is number 105. And the idea is polystyrene printer material from recyclables. And Peter, you ought to be interested in this. You got a question for number 105?
I do. Watching your presentation, I wondered how you determine the purity. Is there a process of sorting on value or the condensed nature of the product? Surely they don't all have the same value, and there's going to be an economic offset for bulkier items that have less polystyrene content. Was that a part of your consideration on perhaps a proportion of products being recycled, or were you thinking of essentially getting everything you could going into that feed stream?
She's having some technical difficulties. She's having some technical difficulties.
Okay, at the moment we're having some technical difficulties, so we'll stop the time clock until we get those rectified and can hear the answer. Okay, sounds like, are we hearing you now? Are we good? We're not. We started to hear her. Is there anything she can do on her end to?
It's an internet issue.
Oh, it's an internet issue.
You may have to come back.
Merrill,
Yes.
would this be a good time for a quick restroom break while you work out the internet issue so she doesn't feel panicked?
Sure. Why don't we do that? Why don't we take just a couple of minutes to stretch our feet or grab a drink?
I'm chatting with her. Okay. So I'm seeing if she can hear them, and if she can, then I can answer for her. She can type it in the chat. Okay. But she says it's just cutting in and out.
Does she have anybody in her house that is on another streaming device? If she's got somebody else, like a brother or a sister that's streaming video games or streaming movies or something.
She can hear you. No, she's alone.
Okay.
I think it's Mike is still on.
Okay.
Yeah, she's alone. So.
Yeah. I don't know that it's gonna help. If her internet connectivity is, does she have an Ethernet cord that she can plug directly into her router? Is she on a wireless network?
I think it's wireless.
It's wireless.
It's wired. Does she
I
have
just
an
heard her
Ethernet
there.
cord?
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all are coming in clear now.
I'm hearing her.
Okay.
Okay, so have our judges all returned?
Peter's not back yet.
Okay.
If it all of a sudden cuts out, I'll give you guys like a thumbs down sign so that then you guys know. I
Okay.
don't know.
Do you want to start answering the question then that Peter asked you?
Yes, I'll answer. If he can repeat it for me, I'll answer him to the best of my ability.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, the question was essentially directed at the purity of the product. So it's bulky. Some products are very bulky and don't have a large content of polystyrene content. did you consider essentially sorting for the best purity and the highest content of polystyrene, so you didn't have to deal with the expense of the really fluffy, bulky stuff that didn't have as much value?
I actually did, because it would be better to run certain parts of it at certain times in certain groups. So if you had like a toy that was colored versus a styrofoam cooler or packing materials, due to the different weights and everything, it changes how much you can put inside the machinery. So I would run a heavier load at one point and a lighter load at another.
Can I ask a quick follow-up?
You bet, go for it.
Are there some materials that are so bulky and have a low content that perhaps wouldn't be economic to run and wouldn't?
Yes, there would be that possibility, but I did do the math on how much it actually costs to run one 30-pound load. And for the compactor, it's 39 cents to run one 30-pound load. And if it's a lighter material, then you wouldn't have to run it as long. So that would be a bonus. So it would be less than that, due to the fact that you wouldn't have as much weight to compact.
Thank you.
Okay, we are running the time once again on entry number 105. So judges, do we have some more questions, please?
I have a question.
Go for it.
Hey, I think this is really a great idea. I love the idea of reducing the amount of plastic going into the environment. Have you looked at the cost of recycling the styrofoam compared to the cost of making new styrofoam and how it compares?
Actually, whenever we create new styrofoam versus recycling, it actually, if we were to recycle it instead of making more of it, it's cheaper for us economically, because not only are we paying to store that old and the new styrofoam in our waste lands, but we're also paying to create it. If we were to recycle it instead, we're no longer paying for it to fill up our wasteland, and we're only paying for it to be reused and recycled over and over again.
And we still have time for one more question. Who wants to go? Anybody, speak up. Go, Marnie.
You hear me now?
What is the actual, oh, sorry, go Cameron, go for it.
Yeah, just a question about what you're going to recycle it into. Is there a plan for certain products so they don't just end back up in the landfill or have to be recycled again?
So I was going in the direction of 3D printer filament, which the bonus with that is that some people who are really into 3D printing actually reuse their filament over and over and over again by purchasing their own extruding line. And so it makes it easier for us to utilize that idea, and they can recycle that. And if they had filament that they wanted to recycle, they could send it to us. You know, there's just so many different things that could be made out of polystyrene that we don't even think about. And it would benefit our environment so much to take it out and reuse it instead of abuse it.
All right, thank you.
Okay, all in, all done. Unless you got a quick one, Marnie?
I was just going to ask, I'm sorry, I was just going to ask what the initial cost of the machine was.
So the thermal compactor, I found one online for $800. Now the extruding line is 3 different machines, and altogether the cheapest spot that I found to purchase all 3 of them was a $2,400 purchase, which altogether would be $3,200. Which, although that is a very scary number, when you think about it, think about how much of our money yearly goes into just throwing away the styrofoam versus reusing it. So
Okay.
reusing it is a more effective idea.
Okay, that'll do it then. Thank you. And while the judges are marking their scores, just let me, for the entertainment of the finalists as well as the judges, a little story that before any of you guys were born, we were being interviewed during this probably the second or third year on KTOO TV, the Norma Goodman show up in Anchorage. And Norma Goodman asked the question, what is recycling? At that time, there was no citizens recycling going on, and recycling was already happening here in the Cook Inlet on the oil and gas platforms. And that basically was the answer to the question. We used to take tours, take the kids out onto the platform so that they could see how the environmental awareness and the recycling was being done right here in the Cook Inlet. So recycling actually started with the industry, the energy industry, and then morphed into the community recycling projects that we now see and have gone so far forward. So it's working very well, and we appreciate your idea on thinking of that. So judges, have we all completed our scores on number 105? I see thumbs up. I don't see Marnie's thumb, but I take it she wouldn't have left without submitting her score. So let's move right ahead then into number 106. Okay, and number 106, the idea is clearing those beetle-killed trees. Who wants to start out? Peggy, we haven't heard from you for a while. What do you think about beetle-killed trees? Come up with a question, Peggy.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. Moving a little slow these days. They're long days. And I had to clear a few beetle kill trees from my property. So I'm curious, number 106, with the beetle kill trees, what got you interested in this? And I know there's been a lot done on it. But in the beginning, what really got you interested in it? And I noticed you really changed your project when I listened to your presentation. I'm looking at my notes here. But where do you see this heading? And what's the trend of beetle kill on the peninsula now?
Well, beetle kill, as we saw last year with the fire, can be very dangerous to our community. And you guys already know all this, but cutting them down is very beneficial, and it's not a trend, it's safety. And not only will it help us, it'll help animals and like birds, as I mentioned in my presentation. If a bunch of little trees are crowded together, it'll be harder for birds or squirrels to live in the trees. But if you have a nice, big, healthy tree, it makes a better home for them.
Thank you.
We have another question. Marnie.
So I know that you ran into some difficulties with some liability issues. Was that kind of a real learning lesson for you as far as how, you know, when you go into different projects and there's so many layers sometimes depending on where those projects are at and what they entail and involve in different agencies, what did you learn by going through that process as kind of, you know, being told about those liabilities and what's okay to do and what's not maybe okay to do?
Well, as I first went into my project, I didn't think that liability, because I've never really done a project like this before. I did not think that liability would be a huge issue, but then again, my original idea entailed a bunch of high school students cutting down trees with chainsaws, and that's not really a good idea unless they have former experience. But I have learned that things need to be thought through much more than just a bunch of kids running around with chainsaws, and a lot more people have to get involved, whether it be forestry or any other volunteers that have trees that they've cut down before or have experience in that field.
And I think maybe it's a great lead-in that maybe there can be a class, you know, for all you guys who want to go and volunteer and help clear that beetle kill. Maybe there's something that we could do to give their guys the proper training and the proper PPE to be able to do so.
That would be amazing if we could get, because I personally have experience bucking up trees, cutting them into pieces, and for firewood, and I've never cut down a tree, but I do have experience bucking them up and splitting and stacking them. But I know not all kids have that opportunity, and I think I agree with that it would be very beneficial if we had a class that would allow that to happen.
We have time for one more question. Who wants to ask it? Come on, Carly, you live out in Nikiski. They got a lot of beetle kill trees out there.
That's very true, Merrill. I was wondering, once all the trees are cut down, you said that it takes a while for trees to grow back. How, often is it that the beetles will come back and destroy the same trees so that you have to redo the process?
Well, usually when you cut down a beetle kill tree, if the beetle...
Oh, I think can you guys still hear me?
I can hear you.
Good now.
My headphone died, sorry. Let me turn up my volume. Okay. So when you cut down a tree, the beetle kill tree, the beetles, if they're still in the tree, will fly out of the tree and they will infest a new tree. So if we cut down the trees in the winter, when the beetles are dormant, they will not fly to other trees, and we can either get the beetles out of the wood or it won't spread to new green trees.
Okay, and we are out of time, so we'll ask our judges to complete their scoring for number 106. Project that's very near and dear to my heart because I built my home out of beetle-killed trees. Started in 1974. It's still standing, by the way, too. So.
That's good.
And little chocolate-covered beetles, you can make a snack out of those. So as the judges are finishing their scores, everybody in and done? Show me those hands. Okay, then let's move right along into number 107. This is the ever popular POP, promoting our pollinators. So judges, what kind of questions do you have for the author of POP, Popping on the Peninsula?
I'll ask.
Go for it, Cam.
Yeah. I really appreciate how far you've continued to develop your project, and really liked your message of all the other things you learned that you weren't expecting along that journey. Just wondering, what would you say was the most valuable of the experience over the last couple of years developing POP?
Well, there are two major things that I think Pop has taught me most about. One is computer skills, like learning how to do graphic design or create an online class or a website. And the other thing is I've become a lot more confident in who I am, the things I'm capable of, and just being able to encourage other people to follow their dreams.
Next question, judges, jump in.
I have a question, Meryl.
Go for it, Carly.
I really admire your project of how much effort you put into it and how many years that you have. And I was wondering, I know graduation is pretty far away for you, but what is your plan to continue this project after you've graduated, and how can people get involved?
Well, I have turned Pop into a business. I've gotten my business license, and right now I'm working on a business plan for selling curriculum kits, which I can explain later, to teachers and homeschool parents. I also hope to continue to come up with ideas to promote pollinators on the peninsula. And curriculum kits contain everything that a teacher needs to hold a pollinator lesson. Activity books, flyers, pollinator pack planting supplies, like seeds, 6-pack pots, soil, pot plant tags, and care instructions, curriculum, a teacher's gift, and other Pop goodies.
Follow-up question, how is the curriculum for the school is going to be adapted to our current issues of COVID-19?
I've created, sorry?
Since they can't be in the classrooms to complete all the projects or the activities.
Yes. So the curriculum kits can be used over Zoom with the teachers and the students. And I've also created an online class. It's got lessons, videos, quizzes, activities, and even some writing prompts. And I've aligned it with the KPBSD standards so that teachers can use it as part of their online curriculum due to COVID.
Senator Machicki, you got any questions about flowers? You like flowers. I've been at your house.
Yeah, my wife loves flowers. Yeah, I actually do have a question. This is a global problem. This is a real life global environmental problem. We're all aware of it. Many of us are aware of it. This is a great opportunity for you to reach out to young people all over the country for some type of fellowship in making this at least a national effort. Have you thought about expanding and reaching out to some of those folks, young people around the country that our next generation recognizes the value of pollinators and the importance to all of us, whether it's agricultural or, like Meryl says, pretty flowers?
That's a great idea. I haven't actually thought of taking it to the whole country. I have won 3 national awards, and that has kind of helped get the word out about POP in the lower 48 and in, my Facebook page has followers worldwide. So I'm kind of starting that process of taking POP nationally.
Excellent, thank you.
Meryl?
Yes, Dick, one more question.
Yeah, you have just an extraordinary list of accomplishments, and I commend you for all of that. And you've been doing this for several years. And you created your business, you've done all this stuff. Now, what you know now and what you've been doing over the last few years, would you have done anything differently in this whole process that you've gone through from your knowledge base now?
I don't know, actually. Everything has gone very well. The community has been super accepting of POP. And I've had tons of support from everyone I've talked to. I think I might focus a little bit more on the education aspect earlier in the project. That education became emphasized later in my idea. But other than that, it's gone really well.
So you do it all over again.
Yes, definitely.
And we hope you will, and keep on doing it. Thank you for the question, Dick. Okay, that was number 107. We're getting into the high numbers. So judges, complete your final scores. And then if you'll just lift a hand indicating that we're ready to go on with our next Q&A session, I appreciate it. Cam, you good? There we go. Carly? Okay, then let's move right into number 108. And this idea is about plastics being reimagined. And this, again, is an idea that we saw for the first time last year. And we have heard about what he's done over the last year since then. And judges, what kind of questions do you have for number 108? With what? Judge number 4, we still need your submission on number 107. Do you have it now?
Little side question.
We're still waiting for the score from the last contestant on. Say it.
Hey, Merrill, this is Dick. I got a problem on mine. My chat seems to be filled and I can't delete the old ones, so I can't write the new one.
Do you know how we can adjust that? Okay, let's work out our technical things here. Looks like Peggy's coming to the rescue.
I have another question.
Okay, for our new entry or for?
No, just how do we know what judge number we are?
We don't have, we didn't give you, it's just on the score sheet that George is filling in. He has numbers across the board. So I didn't give you actual numbers.
Okay.
I was looking for my number too, Peter.
Colette's monitoring everybody's name to make for sure, and I think it just was
We've got it. We got your number. Okay. So now who has the first question for Plastics Reimagined, number 108? Robin, you got one for 108?
Yes, like I said on the other project, I really like the recycling ideas. I really think this has some real potential. And I'd like to know, have you put any thought into measuring the success of the project and some metrics or some ideas of how you would look at how the project is succeeding and where improvements would need to be made over time?
Yeah, it'd be awesome to figure out the amount of plastics that not only we take in, but also the amount of filament we get to classrooms around the Kenai Peninsula. That would be a great measurement of how successful the project has become.
Another question. Judges, jump in, please.
Sure, I'll go. You hear me?
You're on.
All right. Hey, great project. Really appreciate the engineering thought process. You're looking at from a power situation, how to improve, how it works, and exactly the kind of thing we're looking for in our employees all the time too. Hey, wondering what kind of things are you printing, or what are your thoughts on how are you going to reuse this number 5? What sort of products? Is it consumer products? Is it just for personal use, or what do you see for the future for these printers?
So the coolest part of my project that I see is the educational aspect of it, that our STEM programs in Alaska are kind of minimal. And I know at least at Homer High School, we have 3D printers, but after budget cuts and everything, we haven't had classes. And especially what's holding back those classes is not only teacher numbers, but also just the materials that would be necessary. So that's where free materials from recyclables comes in. It would make it really amazing. I've also thought of a personal way to use it is that making fish picks for commercial fishing would be very easy to do out of 3D printer. So that's another idea.
Good answer. Peggy, you got a question about 3D printing?
Well, Cameron answered or asked the question actually that I have. I love this project, and I'll share that when everything began with the pandemic and I was doing some researching and learned how the 3D printers were being used, we actually volunteered some of ours. And I think the Homer High 3D printer, they needed a commercial grade, but some of the swabs that were being used for testing for COVID were being printed by 3D printers in Alaska, which was pretty amazing and fun to see that emerging. And I was really proud of all of our students that have been doing that. So I don't have another question for you right now because Cameron took my question of what products. So
Marnie's got her hand up. Yeah, you know what a fish pick is, Marnie?
Yeah, but what my question is I love the idea how you took it from 2 machines last year and used all your skills to convert it into 1. And my question is how long did that take you? I know you had some help from some community members, which is absolutely fantastic, but how long did it actually take you guys to come up with that design and fabricate the end product?
Well, in the design process, we started out with the shredder machine, and about halfway through the construction of it, we realized that buying an entire another motor and gear reducer was not like beneficial in any way. And we figured out that with just a simple V-belt pulley system, it would be really easy with a simple clutch. So.
Okay, one final question. Peter.
Yeah, I'll ask one. I often focus on prevention instead of sort of trying to figure something out to do with the end product. That's problematic sometimes. And I didn't ask that earlier when there was a similar project, but I have that question. And I hate to, I hope my question's not cutting into his time, but I work on a boat and my wife packs a lunch for me and my crew, and she had some applesauce that had $2 worth of plastic and a little squeeze of applesauce that came out of it. And after it, I have this plastic thing that has to go somewhere and do something. Is any of your research focused on reducing the packaging? I know it's not really a part of the direction of your project, but frankly, I'm interested to see if anyone is evaluating how to reduce what we're putting into the waste stream in the first place.
So
Needs
yes,
to be a quick answer.
Reduction is a very important part, and I plan on all plastic parts that are necessary, as in filament wheels and etc., can all be printed out of the 3D recycled material that we already collect.
Fine answer. That's number 108. Judges, complete your scores. And we will move right along into our final 3 for the Q&A. Looking for those hands. See Dick, Peggy. Okay, looks like you're all ready to me. Let's move right ahead to 109. And this is an idea about beneficial bins for recycling. Who wants to kick it off this time around? Just go ahead and speak up in case I don't see your hand.
I'll go. I really like this idea. Like, it was very interesting to me. And I noticed one of your greatest inspirations of it was saving marine life, and also the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which is pretty commonly known. Did anything else go into the inspiration of this project?
Just that marine wildlife is such a big part of the Homer community and the Kenai Peninsula. And it just seems like, since it's so integrated into our communities, that we should just be giving back and making sure to be conscious of keeping the plastic out of the environment.
Okay, next question for bins on recycling. You've seen the presentation.
I have a question, Merrill.
Go, Brandon.
Sure. So I think you picked a really straightforward thing to address in your community. I applaud you for that. It seems right on the doorstep of being able to make it happen and cheaply and quickly. I've watched people at recycling bins. I myself have been at recycling bins, kind of confused as what's accepted, what's not. And we all kind of do that dance when we're looking at a recycling bin. So how can you help people, and do you have ideas to help people identify what objects are acceptable and what aren't?
Yeah, I mean, it's the recycling containers that are at the blue ones that are just cardboard glass. I mean, the point of this project is just to get 1 and 2 plastics, and so just be one bin for ones, 1 bin for twos. It's just a straightforward situation.
And I see that hand from the senator.
Yeah, I love this project. I think it's really important. And what I really like about it is that you approach the industries that are most affected by, or potentially affected in the future by, the waste stream. Have you heard back from Icicle, and have you reached out to others? The reason I ask that is you wonder if perhaps some of the landing taxes and things that some of the industries pay, if perhaps we should direct some of them toward something like your project, where we make receptacles available for that. But I just wondering if you'd heard back from Icicle or any of the other companies you've reached out to.
I've only reached out to Icicle Seafoods, and I haven't heard back from them. It's probably been pretty busy over there with their recent break of COVID in their Seward facility, so haven't heard back. But
okay, thank you. If you need help hearing back, let me know.
Okay, thank you.
I got a question for you. Your presentation was very clear, so there was no doubt what you planned to do and what you did do. So the part that I'm wondering about is, what have you got any community reaction to what you want to put these bins out there?
Well, I talked to like my high school about, because we have senior service hours that we need to use to graduate. And I just talked, because it's just it's just straightforward. It's just collecting plastic recyclables. And so, I mean, the only part that is difficult about it is just getting the containers over into the recycling centers. And where they would be totally fine with like letting high schoolers know that, like, in order to get service hours, they can just go put it in their truck and deliver it to a recycling center. So it seems, I mean, it's a pretty simple idea. And so everyone seems down for it.
Almost out of time. Do we have one more quick question? Jump in. I'm not seeing any. Okay, our time is exhausted. So judges, finish out your scores on number 109. Final two, number 110 is next. So I'll look for the judges' hands indicating that we're ready to go. Okay, we are off and running with number 110. And this is an idea about, and I've heard a lot of ideas in the last 30 years. Okay, this one floored me. And I had no idea how it made it into the finals until I read the essay. But this is zombie preparedness. We got to be prepared for that zombie apocalypse, right? Judges, you got any questions? I'm sure you have. Who wants to go first? Cam?
Sure. Hey,
speaking of zombies.
I don't want any zombies, but I love the idea. I love movie clips. I'm a sucker for those. Just wondering, so you talked about educating the educators on how to make it maybe exciting to kids. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
So what our plan was, so our original plan was to teach, go into schools and teach kids, but that would be unrealistic to go into every school and teach every kid what we've learned. So we decided to teach the educators, the teachers, to show them what we have and have them go out and share the information that we found.
Any other zombies have a question? I mean, this is serious stuff.
I thought it was a great method for getting your your message across. Your presentation was incredibly engaging, and I think you have a budding career as a filmmaker on putting that together, because I thought that was done very, very well, and it certainly caught the attention. And so if you can do something equally like that and supply it to teachers to get your message across in the classrooms, I think it would be an effective delivery method.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Peter, did I see a question from you? Speaking of zombies and watching your back down there in Juneau.
Well, I'm actually fascinated at the lack of preparedness by parents and homeowners and things. Every time there's an outage from HEA, which doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it's as though their lives shut down. And we don't know what happens: earthquake, tsunami, big storm. But have you thought about actually packaging something for kind of homeowners to be better prepared on? And I loved your video, and I understand why Cam loved your video. But again, it's great to talk to kids, and that's the best way to sort of filter back up to the parents. But just wondering if you thought about putting something together for the typical husband or wife or father or mom on how you could get to them so that they were better prepared?
Yeah, actually, we have created a Z bag, which is a zombie bag. Every bag should have an inventory of a list of stuff that needs to be in there. Stuff that is you should have in there are like numbers of phone numbers of relatives that you can call in case you can't reach them, extra cash, flashlight, blanket, first aid kit, phone charger, water, and food, just in case you need that stuff. And we added our own little tweaks to ours, and it all depends on where you're located and how access, like how you have access to that stuff. And so what we have, we have a water purifier, which you can drink out of puddles in this. So do you want to go?
And then since we live in Alaska and everything, we have a tackle box for fish. Yeah, but
we have a coffee pot in here, so our parents don't turn into zombies and bite our heads off because they're super cranky. Yeah.
So yeah, but we have an entire go bag with everything that every parent should have and kid should have. So
that's excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, one other quick question. If not, we need to move along. Seeing none, let's mark our final scores then for the zombie apocalypse. Didn't used to believe in zombies, but now I've got mirrors. I know they are real. I see Dick's got his score sent. Everybody else all in and done? Okay, we will move along to 111, lucky 11, and this idea is the wonderfully worn wardrobe. Who has a question about the wonderfully worn wardrobe? Peggy, you've done a lot of work with the homeless. You got any questions about this idea?
So I love this project. And I love the concept of creating that space and that you've thought about where it could go and what you could do with it and make it available, as well as opening it up and even going to the point of the anonymous part. I'd be curious how soon you could start gathering clothing. I think during this quarantine time, a lot of people have been cleaning out their closets. And so one of the questions that I had was, where can I donate something now and can you store it? And what's your next step? Because I see you doing this and I see a need for it. And I want to see what we can do and what you think you can do now, in spite of the fact that we're physically distancing and there's some limitations.
For sure. I have collected some donations personally, and I was able to drop them off with my teacher at the end of the school year. So that was when teachers were still in the building, and I was able to store it there. And I have thought about this. I've talked to my parents, and we've been talking about how maybe my mom could post something on Facebook or ways, and we can have like a meeting spot. Maybe it's in a parking lot somewhere, and right now there's not really places for community gathering because of COVID. But I do believe that once I have a place to store the clothing, maybe it's like a storage unit and I can raise money to rent for that. I really want to make this happen. So I'm working towards gathering community donations, and I will be sure to let you guys know once I have that location.
Okay, and a follow-up question is, will you be laundering or cleaning, or what do you need to do when you get clothing in a bag? Because I'm sure it arrives in all different forms.
That's a great question. I haven't thought too much about that, but now that you bring that up, like when I took my personal clothing that I've gathered, I had laundered it before, but I understand that that's not the case for everyone. Not everyone is going to be able to launder their clothing before they give it away. So that is something I should look into. Maybe, I don't know if laundromats are open now, but that could be a possibility. But I'll definitely look into that. Thank you for that suggestion.
Brandon, you've got a lot of stuff that needs to come out of your closet. You got a question about this project?
I do. I think, like Peggy said, it's very nice to know and understand where it's going and what the intent is, helping our community in that regard. So I thought that was really cool. You know, oftentimes working with to benefit the environment or to benefit animals or something to have to do with the environment really is simply working with people all the time. So tell me what you learned about working with and reaching out to, you know, a diverse group of people as you did your research and identified a kind of an end user group for your product.
Well, I've always been inspired to help people, and I feel that a lot of us are able to get the clothing we need. And so looking at that population just in my own high school, over 25% of the students are in that students in transition program or the free and reduced lunch. And so that was like a big number to me. I mean, that's a quarter of a big high school that is in need. And so I have always had a desire to help those in need and those less fortunate than myself or others. And so I think that was the biggest thing, is I really want to help people because they're a very big part of our environment. And I think that that's very important to help those in need.
Time for one more.
Yeah,
Dick.
question for you. You've done all the planning and you know what you're going to do. You got your racks, you got a lot of things. Have you thought about how are you going to measure success of your business?
Well, that's a great question. I haven't thought too much about that, but as far as success goes, I kind of mentioned that inventory system. So when things come in, being able to keep track of what comes in and what is taken and how many people I am able to help, that inventory system will really be the biggest part of that. But yeah.
Good. Well, do some more thinking about that. You got to feel good about what you're doing.
Will do. Thank you.
Well put. Okay, judges, please complete your scoring of number 111. And that'll bring us to our final contestant. And then the results that everybody has been waiting over 3 months for. Looking good. Cam's looking up. Everybody, Carly's, Marnie's in. Okay, then let's bring in our final idea on what I can do, invent, create, or improve to better care for the environment of the Kenai Peninsula. As we all have learned all too well in the last few weeks, that there are over 1,000 ways to die in Alaska. Let's see how the judges have questions about the presentation on those ideas. Judges, who wants to begin?
I'll go.
Go.
Hey, we have a large organization up here. We have a large organization in the lower 48, so we have constant flow of people coming up, and we have to warn them about all the problems they're going to face when they come up here. So I just thought this was fantastic. I can just add a link to the email that talks about moose on the road and everything else. Wondering what are the next 2 or 3 hazards that you're going to address in your video series?
That's a great question. My original idea was wildlife encounters and say like driving on the roads in Alaska in the winter can be dangerous, and hunting and fishing and kayaking, even all sorts of different activities in Alaska that tourists and new arrivals aren't used to when they come up here. So any one of those things could be my next idea.
Next question, please.
I was wondering if, like, given your project is all about kind of tourism and making sure that people are safe and everything. I was wondering if you were going to partner with like Alaska Fish and Game or Wildlife Refuge or any people like that.
You know, I would love to get help with doing that, trying to get my videos available, say on any one of those companies' websites, so they're easily accessible for tourists coming up, since they're already possibly, hopefully looking up on those websites to get ideas of what they can do while up here. Just some safety precautions. The link will be available hopefully on both YouTube and websites like that.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
Drimachicki.
Yeah, I thought it was fascinating. Actually, I've had to deal with the probabilities of injury in my line of work when I was in oil and gas for many years, and it's hard to understand, to get people to understand. I mean, one example is people fear traveling on a jetliner. There has been a fatality in the U.S. in 8 years, right? But they don't think about things that, like, there's been 6,000 fatalities from a height lower than a coffee table. So how are you evaluating the risk of injury when you decide what is your next subject that you're going to try to communicate with people to keep them, help them to understand the risk and to stay safe because they understand it?
That's a great question. Most of the videos are of things that people don't necessarily think about when they first arrive in Alaska. Like my first video focused on tsunamis. Like when tourists come up here, they don't expect a tsunami to be a big deal. But to have information in a video like that will teach them to expect the unexpected up here, and just evaluating those risks just so they feel more prepared for like something unexpected that could happen up here.
Okay, thank you. If there's a time and there's not a follow-up, I have one.
Go for it, Senator.
Yeah, again, so when we think about the various risks, sometimes they're not really apparent what they are. Are you actually going through an evaluation process of causes of death and injury in Alaska as you make your decisions on prioritizing what video should come next?
Yes, I know tsunamis for my first video, that is a major thing that can take many lives. And if I were to make a second one, my next video would probably focus on moose encounters, which are known to be a very dangerous thing that happens up here. So I'm focusing on like the most common things that could happen to take lives, and trying to, yeah, go from what's most common to less expected situations.
Excellent, thank you.
Do we have a final question from our judges?
I can go, Merrill. This is Brandon. I really enjoyed your perspective being new to Alaska. I think that's incredibly valuable. I think we should ask folks that are new what they wish they would have known and learned. So you capitalized on that, and you clearly understand how your peers communicate to one another. I thought it was a great video overall. So I guess my question is more of a suggestion, and there's a group of volunteer coders in Alaska that could potentially help your project get even further down the road. And, you know, you might think about, like Cam said, that their company has big trainings and these videos would be helpful to kind of reduce the boredom of some of those things. But you might also consider an app that's potentially available to anybody visiting, whether they come in on a plane or via vehicle or camper. I could see this having huge potential for a lot of different groups of people. So more of a suggestion, not a question.
Yeah, thank you. That would be amazing, actually.
Anything else, judges?
I have one question. I'm sorry, Meryl. So we've talked a lot about what your next video could possibly be. Do you have a timeline of when you anticipate working on the next video?
I could probably have one done in the next few months, even in a month if I had to. Yeah.
It's great.
Great inspiration, great answer, great question. And with that, judges, complete your final scores for our final contestant, number 112. And let me move into a little show and tell while we give Mr. Stein a chance to total everything up. First of all, let me say, as I've said to you before, no matter where you place here tonight, that's not the end. It's the beginning. You've already shown yourself to be able to do things to help our community. And over the last 30 years, I can give you example after example of those who not necessarily were the top first place winner, second or third place winner, but went on to win things such as the President of the United States Environmental Youth Award, trips back to Washington, D.C., full scholarships to the University of New York. You're talking about almost $500,000 worth of free education by pursuing your projects. So don't be influenced on what you're passionate about or what you're inspired to do, regardless of where you place tonight. Take that money, invest in yourself, and invest it back in our community. I'm really proud of all of you. Now, we usually at this time, while we're giving the accountant a chance to catch up and get the final scores, we bring out and model for you what you will be getting this year, which we've had now for the last 3 months, but not able to give you, is the 30th anniversary hoodie sweatshirt that only finalists get. This is what it looks like. Okay. And because just as a matter of a few days ago, we decided we were not able to have the banquet that we usually have, where we invite community members and we specifically invite people who can host a table that'll help you with your idea. Because of the COVID-19 restrictions, we're not able to do that this year. But what we are able to do is to have a joint chamber presentation. And here's how that's going to work. You each will be invited to come to, it's going to be in Kenai, I just learned today, at the Kenai Visitor and Cultural Center. We will have enough spaces there for community members to come. I'm going to ask each of you by next week to RSVP. We will buy lunch for you and a guest. You can invite as many friends or relatives as you like. They can either RSVP that they want to buy a lunch, or they can not necessarily have to eat lunch. Everyone will be welcome until we are at capacity. So the sooner you get those RSVPs in would be appreciated, and that'll be held on August 19th. I want to say April because I'm used to being in the month of April, but on August 19th at the Kenai Chamber, and we will have some media there. We will have some publicity there. We will present you with your checks. We'll present the schools with their checks, and we'll present each one of you with that outstanding hoodie that marks this historic year. Because we did a lot of planning, a lot of thinking, and we had a lot of ideas of what we wanted to do for our 30th anniversary. And of course, everything changed. And this shows how the real world experience of caring for the Kenai helps the next generation change. And what you've learned from this, what we've learned from this, gives us all a lot of hope for the future. So we are getting those scores now, and I really appreciate your patience. It's not easy to have something like this put on hold for such a long period of time, but I really encourage you to go forward, come back again next year, re-entering your idea, and tell us what you have accomplished. And to the judges, I appreciate each one of you from taking your time out of a busy schedule. It's usually not as busy in April as it is now. So it's been a certain testimony to this community partnership. And those of you like Brandon who jumped in with just 2 days notice, and we had one judge who couldn't be with us tonight, fill out our panel. And I really appreciate that. It's become a signature of the Kenai, how we educate our kids, how we appreciate our kids, and how we invest in them for the future. So again, if you want any questions about the joint presentation, we will bring you up front and ask you about your idea a little bit. If you have any other things that you need to know, you can get in touch with either myself or Colette, who I really appreciate kept this going tonight. Relatively few glitches, so it worked a whole lot better than I thought. And now, if those are the final results, Leonore, who came all the way from Alabama to be here to do the banquet, which now isn't going to be done. Can I have the results, please? You have no special order? And at the last minute, they figured out the amounts, because I had forgotten the amounts that each one gets. But, you know, we only rank the top 6. Everybody else wins $400, and that'll be the check we'll present to you on August the 19th. And our first, not ranking, so, you know, 1 through 12 or anything like that. It's just in a random order. Our first runner-up is Andrew Gadel. He is from Kenai Central High School. He is a student of Miss Christine Davis, and his idea was clearing the beetle-killed trees. I loved his idea, and I want to work with you in the future to make this happen. Our Rotary Club wants to be there with you, and they're excited about it. I was meeting with them today. So big round of applause. Let's hear it from around the globe. Yeah, next year we'll edit in the applause. That's a great idea, Andrew, and thanks for sticking with us. Okay, and our next runner-up is the idea about old clothes recycling. It's Carter Kincaid. He is a SoHi star. He is the student of Sarah Lucas at SoHi, and he will be earning money for his classroom by where he placed here tonight. So big congratulations to Carter Kincaid. The next idea, what the judges liked and is a runner-up of the beneficial bins for recycling. That's the idea from Madison Story. She is from Homer High School, and she is one of our veteran teacher, Mr. Matt Steinoff, who has brought us winners in the past and has done such a good job down there at Homer High School. And our next runner-up was the homelessness that's killing the Kenai, the idea of Reagan Evans. A lot of work she put into this, a SoHi student from the class of Miss Sarah Lucas. Congratulations. Our next contestant, who also brought us something brand new that we've never heard of before, and we really are aware of the zombie apocalypse, but I think the idea is great to get the attention of the next generation as well as the older generation, because we can also, you know, learn from these kind of clever ideas. That's Jessie Wall. She's a student at Cook Inlet Academy. Mr. Kenny Leaf, another one of our veteran Caring for the Kenai teachers who assigns Caring for the Kenai as curriculum, gets a big congratulations. Our next runner-up with a $400 check to spend is another one of Kenny Leaf's students from Cook Inlet Academy, and that is Emily Lamb. Great job, Emily. Congratulations, and we're really proud of you. And that brings us to a little additional money. For coming in 6th place and a winner of $550 cash award goes to the idea about that wonderfully worn wardrobe, and that was the idea from Ashley Dahlman. Ashley, continue with your idea. I'm sure Miss Sarah Lucas is proud of you, as well as all of your other fellow students at SoHi. We'll all be looking forward to having that implemented here on the Kenai Peninsula, and maybe show not only what we do in this community, but other communities who can get on board with your idea. And now in 5th place, we'll receive $650 at the Joint Chamber of Commerce meeting. Elise Leda from Cook Inlet Academy, Kenny Leaf's student, and her polystyrene printer material from recyclables, collecting it and making it happen right here on the Kenai Peninsula. Well, I'm going to get my shake, aren't I? Nakota Cooper from Kenai Central High School, a student of Miss Christine Berglitz. And I have to say this, the next generation, Ridgeway Farms, in the first year when we started 30 years ago, and I forget whether it's your cousin or it's your aunt, but anyway, I know her grandmother is Abby Allah, who the Ridgeway Farm started from an original idea that started with Caring for the Kenai and a subsequent grant to implement that idea in a family business that now is feeding us all local produce. Her idea of marketing imperfect produce is a great one, and I really encourage you to go ahead with it. That is Nakota Cooper. She gets $750. Oh, facts, the scores or the projects? I'm not sure I've got. Anyway, let's go on to 3rd place. Plastics Reimaged. Last year's winner continued with his idea, and I think he's got a great business opportunity if he continues going with it. That's Austin Klein from Homer High School, the winner of $900 for the work that he did this year. In second place, I'm waiting for the drum roll. Come on, kids. There you go. Okay. This project at the Economic Outlook Forum took people like Cameron Hunt and other major energy industries and just dropped their jaws and said, why are these kids going to college? I want to hire them, you know, and we'll pay them six figures now. Was the team of Lindsay Guernsey, who has made Seward proud, who has made the Kenai Peninsula proud. It is the student from Jennifer Swander, and they will win $1,100, and they're on their way to college. You guys keep doing a great job. You've really helped our community and the flood mitigation problems. Well, that doesn't leave anybody else except the person who was so disappointed last year that she didn't take first place. And I think it was either third place or second place, but she dug in like a racehorse and went out and proved that her project was the best thing happening on the Kenai Peninsula. I will get teary, as I'm sure your mom and dad will. I told her that she would make this happen. Anna DeVold, you are the 2020 champion of caring for the Kenai. Congratulations, $1,600. And I hope to see you not only Wednesday the 19th, but in Washington, D.C. at the White House in honor of the President of the United States.
Thank you.
Congratulations, all of you. It'll be fun to see you in person. If you can't make it, let us know. We'd love to have you. I know some of you live in Seward and Homer and won't be able to make it, but we'd love to have you all get the public recognition that you truly deserve. And I did have, Colette, did you want to make that announcement? You wanted me to? That's it, we got it covered. Okay, to our sponsors, to our community partners, to our judges, it's been an investment that has paid huge dividends. And thank you for giving me a very great life working with you. We'll see you all at the banquet. Love you, love you.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks, Merle. Congratulations.
Thanks, Merrill.
Sir.
Good night, everybody. Congratulations, everybody. Projects are amazing this year.
Yep, great job. Thank you.
Super job, kids. Boy, you did great. Great projects. Really good. Great videos. I watched those videos. It was really, really good. I mean, we see a lot of that in person before and everything, and maybe the dynamics of the crowd made a difference, but you did a great job in your presentations. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Make a note for me to have the judges do the wrap up next year. They're a whole lot better than I am.
Well, you're pretty good, Merrill, but I got to admit that I think the lack of a crowd kind of took it down to the quality of the product. This is one of the best years I've seen. I've been involved for a long time, and I'm very impressed. I had a very difficult time scoring these projects because they were all good. And I appreciate all of your hard work. I think you did very well. I'm hopeful for the future with the presentations I saw tonight.
Hopefully next year, if we get a vaccine, we will be live again and we'll get this behind us with a flu shot. Thank you all for being so patient.
Thank you, Mr. Sikorsky. Happy 30th anniversary.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, Merrill.
Thank you.
Bye. Okay.